Go TV Uganda. Love it.
Ooh, they look nice.
Thank you, honey.
Yo! Come!
You guys gather, it's going down. Gather! Gather! Yo!
I tell you what. Yo!
Airtel is giving you bigger data bundles for the same price. Dial star 175 hash to choose from our range of bigger Chillax bundles that don't expire. Bigger monthly bundles, all for the same price. And stay connected longer to loved ones. Airtel, the smartphone network.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda, and welcome to this segment that is the newsreel, where we get to talk about we have topical discussions, all right? What's happening around you in your society? What's making you happy? What's making you unhappy? What is brewing confusion for you? We are here to make sure that we throw some light to it. My name is Philomena, and it is the 19th of September 2022. I am with the two wise men, that is Felix Nkunda and Robert Nyonyintono.
The wise man.
Well, one day I'll be expecting to hear that story. Well, this morning we want to have a discussion about quite a topic that is appalling, I must say, when it comes to school-going children. I mean, this is a desire for us as a country to have 100% of them get into school, but also be able to sustain the going to school all the way. I could say from primary or kindergarten level all the way to the tertiary institutions that are readily available. But as it is right now, dropping out of school children is actually it has become a disease, if I must say. It has become an epidemic in the country, and this has been brought to light by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. Now, according to the State Minister for Gender, Labour and Social Development, Sarah Mateke, did say that the number of dropouts, okay, when it comes to the school-going children is quite high, and right now she was focusing in Kisoro district. But again, we know that this is just not only tied to one district. We know that a lot has happened between now and 2 years ago, where we did have COVID-19. Already as it is, the number of dropouts had already gone up, but this was catalyzed by all these unforeseen things that we saw. Number one on the list, of course, being COVID-19. Very many challenges did come as a result, and of course the implications were us seeing quite a number of school dropouts. But if I may take you through some statistics right now as it is, in Uganda the average primary school dropout is standing at about 45%. Now the biggest chunk of that 45% is mainly by girls, and this is a pattern we have been seeing over and over and over. People have talked about it, NGOs have talked about it, you know, pertinent people in pertinent positions have been able to talk about it, but I could say we haven't yet come to the end of the road when it comes to finding a solid solution for this issue. And before we get to the solutions, also we just have to see what has why are we seeing all these high numbers being curated, you know. And maybe to start off with you, Robert, we already know as it is, of course, right now we could say COVID-19 is the biggest driver, but even before that we did see the numbers of school dropouts grow gradually. Okay, it's only that after COVID came in, the curve really shot up. In just a span of 2 years, the numbers were quite shocking. But I mean, looking at pre-COVID, okay, what were the major factors, or and I mean, do they extend to even COVID right now, post-COVID? Is there continuity of some of those reasons?
Definitely there is, and I love the statistics you've given us, that 45% of these children drop out at primary. But I want to break that a little, depending on a research that was carried out by the Ministry of Education and Sports. Research shows that at the entry level, that is primary 1, we have about 1 million, that is 1 million pupils register on average across the country. Now, at the end of the 7-year cycle, you have 600,000. Out of 1 million, 600,000 are the ones that complete primary 7. Now, from primary 7, we go to O level. There you have 300,000. Out of the million, 600, now you have 300,000. Now, those that move and get Uganda Advanced Certificate of Education are only 100,000. Now, Philo, if we put this in, if we look at that background, that means a huge number. And I think about 3 months back, His Excellency was addressing the nation, and he said, you have about, in our education cycle, about 8 million dropout. 8 million dropout. When he was talking about parents and teachers conniving and paying school dues or some money, yet UPE should be free of charge. So he said, this is a big chunk. And he said he was disappointed. You can't have over 8 million drop out in the education cycle of Uganda. That is a big number. Now, we've said, what are some of these reasons? Because statistics remain useless if no action is taken. You'll have them, you'll discuss, you simply, they're good for researchers. But then, statistics are gotten to find the causes and solutions. One of the things we must say is a big chunk of this number happens to be girls that drop out. We have element of culture. Till today, there are many people that believe a girl child will get married. A girl child will have things on a silver platter. Invest more in the boys. Because a boy is going to be ahead of the family, he has to fend for a family. And some believe a girl child, you hear, even right from the onset, when Felix gave birth to one of his daughters, I know people asked her, Azadechi, Sukari, you know, meaning it is something that has come.
It's the equivalent of the sex,
like it is a commodity, you know. So why invest so much to educate a girl child who may not head a family, who is going to be there to be looked after? So if a parent has boys and girls, he would look at educating the girls. Then the other factor is the fact that we've not accepted in giving some of these girls a second chance. That during school, when a young woman, when a girl conceives, many families will not think of taking that child for further education. Let me just give you an example. We've just come out of COVID-19. When government said that let these pregnant girls come and study, we all know that yes, it is complicated having a pregnant woman, a pregnant girl in school. But you saw the resistance that came with that. We can't have them, they're going to spoil others. This has been one of the areas where girls fear that once you become pregnant, you don't. Now, what examples are we setting?
Yes.
Let them finish giving birth, then they come back to school. But I want to tell you, homes had proven not safe. So how many of these would give birth and be allowed back in school?
Yes.
It meant that many, after giving birth, they would say, wayonona fizi toina nsonga lwaki oddayo ku ssomero. Yet if this child was in school, so that element also becomes a problem. Then the other being poverty. I want to tell you, many of these young girls, some have been married off because of money. We saw a girl that was saved in the West. When the parents had received their, I think, 10 cows and a number of goats. Because poverty, they look at this young girl as a source of earning. Imagine a poverty-stricken family. If you're telling them to give them 10 cows, 8 goats, that would be maybe capital blessing to them. So poverty is another issue. And sometimes the parents do not have capacity to keep these children in school. Much as we talk about free education. But to an extent, it is not free education. There are many of these UPE schools you can talk about where parents are paying, not much as private, but they are paying. And you know our communities with the high fertility rate of our Ugandan women.
Yes.
A man can have about sometimes 12, 13 children. And he's the head. The women are not empowered in these rural areas. So he may not, even if you tell him of the 11, everyone contribute 100,000. This man may, that will mean about 1.1 million per term. This poor man may not have that money. So at the end of the day, you have culture, you have poverty, you have ignorance, you even have religious beliefs. That belief, someone will tell you once a girl goes in her menstrual cycle, she's mature enough to be wedded off.
Yes.
And in some faith, it is okay to wed off that young girl. There is no way you can stop them, because for them they tell you the biological cycle is prepared, it is ready for marriage. This education was introduced by the white man. So all these are reasons why of late we see that these increase even before COVID-19. This has remained a challenge.
Okay, now seeing that is pre-COVID-19. Also during COVID-19, there was a report by the National Planning Authority, and it was majorly discussing the challenges that are going to be faced by all these education institutions, the school-going children, everybody that has a role to play in the whole education cycle. But they did say that, of course, they highlighted that quite a number of children are going to drop out of school because of very many reasons. And there is one thing they did focus on as something that would be a tangible solution, Felix, and I did not know the efficacy of this, and I would really want to hear your opinion. They did say because of the exposure that very many teachers and other stakeholders in the education system had, in diversion to make sure that they get their incomes flowing in. When eventually schools reopen, they might eventually, get out of the whole education system, and then we see shortages in teachers, and then also schools closing because, especially schools that cannot fully facilitate for all these teachers. And their solution was that maybe government should take over some of these private schools, so that they can ensure that education is available to all other people and that they are ready to facilitate these schools, just in case the private sector fails when it comes to education. Now, is this quite a tangible solution? Does it work? And anyway, is this for the short run or the long run?
I think it's even laughable.
Because they did highlight that in their report.
But I find it very laughable, because in Uganda we have a saying that akasange kakulema anteba kusabanganga. Like you can't fail to what is it called, to remove feathers from a small bird, then you want to ask for a big.
Yes.
I think government is not in position to handle this pressure. But with that kind of background, it does bring another issue into contemplation for us to discuss and probably also interest ourselves in. Robert did bring out a couple of issues that could be the causes, but are not, in my opinion, I wouldn't subscribe to the fullest of them. Nevertheless, they're actually true,
yes,
and they're grounded. However, over time, and for more than, I think, about 30, 40 years now, the education system, the education style, the education fashion and way has lacked value consistently. And I can put that to a parallel check with other institutions. The rate at which politics as a career, by the way, has grown vis-a-vis the rate at which education has grown. I want you to just, let's just look at it probably in the times of COVID as our spring point. Like after COVID, did we have more people get interested in politics or drop out of politics? Like the rate of interest is increasing so fast in things like politics because of the value that is attached to political practices. Rather, the rate of education is decreasing at a terrible speed because of the absence of value attached to education. And this, you gave an example of teachers.
Yes.
It is true. Look at how teachers suffered in these 2 years, 2 or 3 years, whatever it was. Now, when you talk about dropouts, you don't just talk about the victims. There are other situations that aid these scenarios to happen. One, how many people in this country are directly benefiting from education?
Only, and does this focus on Ugandan education, or even education acquired from somewhere else beyond the boundaries?
No, let's look at Ugandan education. Yes. Because the problem now is entirely ours. Let's own it from our own direct systems.
Well, we have a number of our neighbors come and claim we have higher standards or better standards.
Do you know what they
here.
do? They study, but what's the rationale? I mean, what's the ratio? Probably it is 1 to 0. If you know, out of 100, how many international students are here? Probably 2 or 1. So it doesn't defeat the purpose of the discussion in terms of numbers. But the question is, when people study here, what can they do with the education? That would be the biggest reason that would keep our children or even parents yearning to have kids in school. And this is what we have been saying time and again. You talked about a statistical analysis of 7 years, that if people entering at P1, 1 million people, and by the end of P7, they are probably 60.
Yes.
We're at 60%. We have already lost 40%. Now, the ones who have gotten out, the 60%, what is the empowerment? These things continuously, we may not want to talk about them, but the style, fashion, mode, and the kind of education we are giving, it is less of value. People don't find need to go to school anymore.
Because they are seeing better opportunities being availed to them every other day.
Between you and me, you saw teachers in COVID going to bricklayer, because bricklaying brings in more money than being a teacher. Now, how do you tell Kirabo to say that I'm going to pay for my child for about 20, say how many years up to university, to get to earn less than a bricklayer? But even before you get this job, you're either going to pay to get the job, or you're going to spend another 5 years job hunting. Because the kind of education we have is you're paying school fees for someone from P1 up to university to drive a border.
Yes.
Our style, fashion, and kind of education has consistently not proved value.
So it's about job seekers. Not
away from some of us who have been lucky, and I don't take this for granted. It's by grace of God that some of us consistently put on a necktie every day, probably from the time we left school. But I know of over thousands of lawyers in these towns who we know.
And Felix, while we are at it, you did talk about teachers looking at other ways, as opposed to, getting into their teaching profession, but even also cursing to the students. Most of the reports that were coming in when all these children, when schools officially opened, actually most students were opting out of school, especially secondary students. For those ones that have been taking of their children, rather their parents' businesses, that people who are quite shrewd enough to start off their businesses. Yes.
Even if it was me,
they opted out of school.
Honest, if my child was able to understand probably a bit of English, if it matters for them, and like in Uganda we say they have been bakunyumunguzizako. I would advise my child, if I have a business, if I'm into construction, just put him on sites. Today in Kampala, the biggest number of people who run this town have never seen a blackboard. And I can name people who have over 20 arcades in this town. They have never seen, and they're not shy to say, at least because some of them are.
Because their resources are quite evidence.
And I'm not saying education, by the way, is bad. You could be lucky, like some of us, myself, maybe Philo and Robert and many other people. I'm not saying education is useless, but I want you to be honest to ourselves. Let's be honest to ourselves. The problem is not just about the pregnancies you're hearing. This is not a new thing. We need to have a concrete discussion in the kind of education we are giving our children. It's not a hands-on education. It's not a hands-on, because if you want to deal with issues like unemployment, which are the biggest discouragements for education, how about we practicalize education? You're talking about Uganda being, agriculture, a backbone of Uganda. In this country, where someone finishes 7 years in school and they have hardly held a hoe, you understand?
Yes.
So I think the challenge is not just COVID, it's not, it is
the primary challenge is the value of education.
The value for education.
Yes.
And how I wish my brother, probably Robert, could have gotten us the statistic of after school. Let's look at now. Having, you see, because you're talking about the loss of about 40%, and it drops as it goes by. But we need to also get the statistics of the number of people who have finished studying and probably at higher level and are not employed. Do we ever ask ourselves, where are they? But we are here pumping more, musome, study. But where are the ones who are not being absorbed every year? I can tell you even this year, how many universities have already finished their graduations. In October, probably Mukono has, Nkumba will have, Makerere finished.
Yes.
We have now Cavendish, we have KIU, we have YMCA now is a university, we have
IIU.
And that is a good thing. But if we are every year bringing out probably 1 million graduates, where are 1 million jobs?
There are 1 million, they go and find jobs in other sectors
now,
that are not part of what.
But it's also not a guarantee that
you're going to find
the
a
whole
doctor,
percentage is not going to be 100%.
You're going to find a doctor working as a pharmacist. And where is the pharmacist? And it works like this and that. Now, the challenge we must address that this kind of education that creates job seekers, it is not motivating.
Yes.
Philo, between you and me, there are courses I wouldn't take my child to study, but they are still there and they are very expensive. So how about we create a motivating fashion, style, and mode of education?
Well, Felix, would we say government is now looking at addressing that? We recently saw a review or introduction of a new curriculum for lower secondary.
Have you taken time to go through that curriculum?
Consultations are going on for a new higher education curriculum, which is aimed at being more of hands-on than theoretical, where we are seeing that now children study up to around 2, then from that time it is based on hands-on, seeing how they are empowering these children with the life skills. And also where we are seeing now government through the Director of Industrial Training, is looking at people in the informal sector who have mastered skills, and they are assessing them and giving them various qualifications. They find a mechanic, you go, you're interviewed, they give you tests, then they evaluate and say for you, you're now at a diploma level, you improve you at a degree level, and all of this. Would we believe that these initiatives maybe would be a solution if we review, if our higher curriculum is reviewed, our lower secondary was reviewed, and also now tapping into this informal sector? Would we think this would be better?
Well, we are still talking about the growing concern over students dropout, and where we are at right now is looking at the primary challenge being, finding value in the education sector. But, from what you said, Robert, Felix seems to be...
I was just asking Phil, have you heard of the word misguided missiles?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
I think this is the best time to use it in the assertion of my brother.
Yes, why would you say
that? Because, there are two things. If you think you want to change the education sector, do you think you can give what you don't have? But the teachers you're still churning out in Makerere, Chambogos of this world are still doing the old. Where do they teach the new syllabus from? Is it being enrolled in universities for the teachers who are coming out? What is the plan? Or you're giving them books? You people take education for granted. And this is very, very sad.
Maybe the fact that they're rolling out some of these things right now, we want to believe that the new caliber of people that are going to be coming out of schools are going to be a bit different from during our times when we came out.
In addition to that, we are seeing that now also government has gone to extend that is our vocational training institutions. More vocational training institutions.
That is one of the smartest moves government
where I agree with Felix, you find that most of these school dropouts, previously had a mindset that a person who goes to a vocational institute are those who have failed. And those that have poor grades then would go to vocational institutes.
And as it turns out, they seem to be the lucky ones.
Those
now.
whose parents don't
Yes.
have
It's one of
money
the best,
to continue.
the
But
best
time has
decisions
proved
the government has done.
that for you, you continue up to university. This young man stops at senior 4, goes for a vocational. He finishes his 2 years. He comes out. He's a plumber. He's wanted. He moves the entire community. Come here, come there, come here. He's in construction industry. By the time you finish university, the man has contacts. He has been well established. He's making money. For you begin job seeking. The more days he spends in this field, the more contacts he has. Then later is the same person employing you. Who went all the way? You had a 2 years plus 3 years. He's now the one employing you. And employing you in something you did not study. So at the end of the day, I think government has woken up to realize that we have to empower vocational, have more vocational institutes. And I think that better answers what Felix is talking about, practical skills. Because what is education if it can't solve the problems you have?
Honestly, for me, if you don't mind, please, lastly, if someone is taught something for 7 years and they can't make any production out of 7 years, depending at whatever age, people who are doing miracles in China are not 40 or 50-year-olds. These are 13-year kids who are making technology and IT and what. But if you want to teach our children, Aya Lantana Kamara, Manya de Juminas, that kind of nonsense. You know? I hear what cloud disease, what the hell?
Please let us know what you think.
Nimbus.
Well,
for 7 years, what am I studying about cloud? Just show me when it's going to rain. It's as simple as that. But you do so I think for me, Philo, 7 years of a child, they should come out able to at least to make a toothpick, banang. But 7 years, the kid is here bragging about I speak English. Where in Kampala do they people who speak English?
Please go to our social media pages on
if
Twitter.
They can learn how to read, write, count.
In 7 years?
Yes.
Those are basic skills.
Actually, 7 years minus the baby, middle, and top. Those are 10 years.
That is introduction.
Of learning to read.
But it's necessary. It's necessary. Well, the conversation is still happening. Go to our social media. Twitter, the hashtag is GMU. We want to find out, how do we get to add value to Ugandan education? We want value at the start. We want value midway. But most importantly, we want value at the end of the education cycle. Do let us know, and you can also send us your feedback, your thoughts as well onto our WhatsApp number. On our WhatsApp number, I'll be sharing your feedback with the rest of our Good Morning Uganda family. Right now, we're going into the, more updates, traffic updates when it comes to weather updates. But before all of that, we'll be doing the big stories in our press review in our morning dailies. New Vision, Daily Nation, and the Daily Monitor. Good Morning Uganda continues shortly after this.
I remember the lockdown, when the streets were empty and our lives disrupted, when businesses closed and our livelihoods hung in the balance. Hospitals were full. We lost loved ones, jobs, and hope. Our children couldn't study anymore. We cannot let this happen again. We should not go back. Get fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and join the millions of Ugandans who are already vaccinated.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Hallelujah Ginger Tea drink and Hallelujah Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Hallelujah Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Hallelujah from all shops around.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, in the press review this morning, we start over the Daily Monitor and looking at Museveni speaks out on Muhoozi's parties. Well, he did say, let the party go on. President told a rally at Masindi Golf Course that the pro-Muhoozi Kainerugaba group emerged as a resistance towards the arrogance and irresponsible behavior of the opposition towards NRM party members. And a thumbs up for the first Deputy Prime Minister, that is Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, who did attend the Nyonyintono Festival. The pictures are quite very clear about that. And in more news, we look at women in fintech and how government is seeking to close the gender gap. And the tribute face-to-face with Queen Elizabeth, Ugandans come out to share their stories. And looking at healthy living, effects of teenage pregnancy, what would come out of that. Now, unregistered border riders banned from city today, and we are yet to see how that is going to be implemented. All right, and in the panorama section, how extortion rings risk lives of patients in Mbale. And into history. Today in history, the year was 1903 or 1903, where King Leopold II of Belgium denied accusations of brutality in Congo. And also in history, New Zealand first in women's ward. The year was 1893. But moving on to the New Vision, Mollen.
Well, in the New Vision for this morning, leading off with the big headline right there, schools to buy food from certified farms. Now, UNBS has over 4,000 approved local manufacturers. That is detailed on page 7. But also they show you the final goodbye to Queen Elizabeth II, how the Queen will be buried today inside her last resting place, how Uganda is commemorating her legacy, the key moments in her reign, and of course a lot more that will be in the New Vision for this morning. Now also 7 tips youth on wealth creation, that is on page 8, and also across transport, ban on unregistered borders in city. That starts today. Details are on page 14. Now crossing over to the second page, more pay tribute to Queen Elizabeth. They show you some of the pictures right there of different members of Uganda that have been paying their tribute to the Queen right there, and of course there are different messages as well.
And into the sports section, we're looking at Venom's and TP Mazembe dance. This is, of course, due to their contentment. How Vipers Brazilian tactician Roberto Oliveira feels his Venoms have earned it to that continental giant in the mold of TP Mazembe in the second round. And one agonizing sleep heart Bulls dream, and also looking at the consistency that lifted Hippos to the Sevens summit. And in the Premier League, Arsenal reclaiming top spot, where Arsenal see off Brentford to 3-0 to return to the summit of the English Premier League.
Well, the New Vision also brings you more details about the Venoms, of course talking about the fact that is Vipers up to scratch. Now, although they did make it to the first round of the CAF Championship League, it looks like they will have to double their efforts as they face their next opponent, that is DRC's TP Mazembe. But of course, high expectations for them right there. That was after they did get it with the Bangui at St. Mary's Stadium in Chitende on Saturday to qualify for the first round. We're talking about CAF Champions League Premier League round. Now also in the New Vision Sport, this is the right time for Ndeje, talking about the East African University Games Ndeje 2022 that is due December 16th to 21st. Giving you a lot of the details right there. All roads will be leading to Ndeje University in December for the highly anticipated Federation of East Africa University Sports Games. Now details are also in the New Vision Sport for this morning. We also give you more into new basketball courts for Hill Primary kids, and also very interesting right there, they give you Arsenal regain lead. That is the table with the English Premier League, but also Spanish La Liga, German Bundesliga, Italia Serie A, and Spanish La Liga also right there for you. They give you the tables and how they are standing so far.
The Daily Nation, Gachagua in charge, and of course cometh the man where Rigathi Gachagua, the political greenhorn who only got to parliament 5 years ago to serve a single term, and boasts no political pedigree or dogmatic aristocracy, and who beat a star-studded cast to become William Ruto's running mate, is now acting president after the head of state left yesterday for London and New York. Quite a bio for this man, and he's already assuming the presidency position. Clearly, I can see we are starting, or they are starting.
It's paying off.
Eventually, it does pay off.
Yeah.
Now, for President Ruto, a delicate dance around chairs. Chair at the King's table, chairs for top two, chairs at the Kenya Kwanza. Do find out more on that, and also quite a tribute to the Queen. Lost allure of the UK monarchy as Queen Elizabeth II is laid to rest. The shine is fading from the crown. Now, two Kenyan nurses caught in a 12 billion Kenyan shillings US scam. One has pleaded guilty, and she'll be able to know her fate come January. The by-elections loom as Ruto lines up cabinet. We're seeing quite some 4 headshots of some major MPs that could be contesting in this hot sport. As of course, jostling for power in Ruto's government hosts up the likely lineup of his cabinet is throwing a number of surprises. Should he tap the politicians, a series of by-elections will ensue. So catch up on that and very many other stories in the Daily Nation this morning. But also moving on to the roads, the situation this morning, I must say that you are bound to meet quite some heavy traffic, considering the weather conditions which go hand in hand with our traffic situations every other time. We know that in one way or another there is an effect, and this morning I am looking at several parts in Kampala, several divisions also as well, and I want to start off with Makindia division, coming in of course from areas of Bokassa, Muyenga, crossing over to Namongo, Kisugu, Nsambia, headed towards town. I must say that this part of town is, or this side of town is actually very heavy with the traffic this morning, and I want to focus mainly on areas coming in from Muyenga, Tanki Road. It's a bit free, but also I can witness, or you can witness, a traffic building up on that very specific part as you're headed towards Muyenga Road. The orange spots show you that traffic is growing around this area as you're continuing all the way. Gaba Road is quite free for you to navigate, but you don't have to be excited, because as you're headed again towards Muyenga Road, you are bound to meet some heavy traffic, and I mean intense traffic, because the reds are already transitioning into maroons, clearly showing you that it's going to be hard to navigate around this area. And of course, if you're coming in from the Nsambia Estate Road, you're not any different, because you'll be bumping into the same traffic, and I must say that it does not look like it's about to disintegrate any minute now, so you need to come when you're ready to face it. And again, for the biggest part of Muyenga Road, I must say that it has traffic on it, and for the parts that are a bit free, the traffic is building. Crossing over to Mbogo Road, the traffic continues all the way as you're headed towards the city center, and again, it doesn't save you any minute, because we're seeing the traffic taking over this whole road, building up in some spots, and in the others it's already established there, so you need to plan accordingly. And crossing over to areas of Kabalagala, The traffic is also starting to build up in several parts of that road. So yes, do plan accordingly as you're headed towards your final destination. Nsambia Road, on the other hand, I must say is also quite very busy. All the way, the traffic that is building up from back this side going on to Mukwano Road. And by the way, the farther you go, the heavier the traffic. So it is quite expected. I am hoping that you did wake up quite early, or you are bound to get to your destination a bit late if you're going to dread through this traffic. And it builds on all the way as you're trying to connect to Access Road, which will eventually take you to the main road. As you can see, the red is quite decorated in reds, in maroons, and in oranges, quite colorful, which clearly shows you that it's going to be also quite colorful as you're burning that fuel to make sure you get to your destination. It's the industrial area. The 7th Street is not any different over here. The reds are dominating. The 6th Street could be quite an easy one for you to navigate, but again, when you get to Access Road, it's going to be the same story because the traffic is already built up here as you're joining the main road, which is the Kampala Jinja Road. And also, if you're coming in from Namwongo side, I must say that, well, again, you will be telling the same story because the traffic is already heavy on this road. We do have this red spot over here as you're trying to navigate all the way. So for the biggest part of Namongo Road, I must say also, it's already busy. We already have pedestrians. We do have, you know, cyclists. We have motorists. So it's quite a busy one on this road this very morning. And as you're headed towards the main road, Kampala Jinja is actually quite heavy as well. The traffic is already dominant. The reds have become a problem. Over here, we do have cars that are coming in from Yusuf Lule Road trying to get here on the main road. We do have cars that are also coming in all the way from Wampeo. We also have cars that are coming in from Old Port Bay Road. So yes, like I did say at the start, and I always say every time it rains, it's quite problematic on our roads, and it doesn't matter the time. And I know that when Mollen was saying, I think it should just rain in the afternoon, because in the morning it's quite a crazy route. And by the way, this issue happens during the rain, and even when it's done raining, it's actually worse. So I need you to brace yourselves mentally and also your pockets to make sure that you're able to you know, refuel that car just in case any issues ensue while you are en route. Well, that's it from our traffic updates this morning. I will now leave you to Mollen to tell us whether we are going to be experiencing these rains throughout the course of the day or not, because I'm pretty sure a number of Ugandans are not happy about the rains this morning. Well, Mollen, what do you have for us?
Well, I can tell you one thing, I'm not happy either, so I know what they're feeling right now. It looks like more and more we might be dealing with most of these rains actually for morning hours. The rainy season continues. We're only seeing a start of it, and of course at the beginning of the month we did forecast that September would have more rains, and of course that leads into October, which will also be having double that, and until November when we start to see the rains go down. But for now, we might be dealing with most of these for quite some time. And I think, Philomena, people should appreciate that these rains were much needed. Farmers out there needed these rains to kick off with the planting season, but also the fact that we had a drought crisis, especially for areas of Karamoja. So I say it's a good time, yeah.
Well, we should be quite appreciative. We can't be the ones to complain every now and then. That's it from the traffic updates. I now officially hand you over to Mollen for more weather and climate news. I am Philomena Mastiko. Have a wonderful Monday and a productive week ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Philomena. And of course, we continue to look at the weather conditions across Uganda. Just yesterday and throughout the weekend, we were seeing more extreme weather events. We did have that event of flooding in Elegu. That is also adding to the flooding scenarios that we've had across the country. Now, this is as a result of the heavy storms across the country. However, the frequency out there and the intensity is what is alarming. More and more, we continue to see all that going to extreme. Yes, we do expect rains for this time of the year, but for it to go up to that extreme event are just, you know, variations that we are yet to determine whether these are actually related to climate change. But one thing is for sure, scientists have already declared this part of generation as having more of rising temperatures, and that is evident with the State of Climate report that just came out recently for 2021 from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority. Authority that was also indicating that we are looking at more extreme weather events across the country, of course with also increase in temperatures for most areas, and that adds to the flooding scenarios that we have been seeing across the country. Also, the landslides that are associated, cutting off roads, washing away bridges, and of course destroying property and loss of lives that we continue to see across different areas within the country. But as the rainy season continues, we continue to advise people, if you have loose objects, do secure them. There's going to be a lot of rains. It's going to be associated with strong winds. If you can reinforce your roofings, please go ahead and do that. Secure some of the plantations, because they could also be ruined in a strong storm. So those are some of the things that you can do, although you cannot control the weather, but maybe the effects can be minimized. Also, if there is a way that you can dig tunnels across houses so that when there is runoff, when there is water, when it is raining, it can be able to at least go downhill. That is something that you can do to avoid the flooding areas. And also, one thing to note for sure at this time of the year is do not allow to have stagnant water around your home, because that is also one way to have mosquitoes breed across the area. And that could also result into a lot of health issues that we want to avoid. But also what is happening across the world, we continue to look at more extreme weather events. We have been covering mostly events across Europe and the US, and so far we do know that one of the biggest challenges that is being faced across California right now is the wildfires that have spread, making them the California's largest fire of the year. We did have some of the wildfires just at the beginning of the year, but this one has really taken a toll, because it has been a week now that these fires continue to take more and more of hectares of land. So far, we do know that it has burnt nearly 75,000 acres of land, and it is now 34% contained, meaning that much of it is still out there. There was a little bit of relief also as more rains came through to help with putting down the fires, but at that rate it couldn't even be contained. The rains just put out a little bit of it, but it continues across the area, and so far there has been evacuations. Also, President Joe Biden did talk about the fact that this part of the country is experiencing the worst extreme event when it comes to changes in weather, and of course does also indicate that he is pushing more for the Climate Act, for looking more into climate action across the US. And these are some of the extreme weather events that he's talking about, taking more into what will be presented at COP27 in Egypt, especially in terms of climate action. Now, we also did see more of rains and storms coming through, that is across Japan, as Typhoon Namado did hit most areas, landing into Japan. Now, more rains are still expected even as we speak, as this typhoon did make landing across Japan's southmost main island in Kyushu. That was yesterday. Now, we do know that so far this has been associated with strong winds, forcing airlines to cancel flights. Also, the train operations were cancelled, and also looking at more than 300,000 households that have been cut off in terms of power due to this typhoon. Now, the aftermath of it is that once it makes landfall, it actually starts to reduce, but the effects there is when they get intense, because those strong winds could actually take on more buildings. Now, the good thing is that before this was made landfall, actually meteorologists did forecast this, and they were able to carry out evacuations, also cancelling flights, and all those train operations that were cancelled. It did help with minimizing the damage, but otherwise it could have been worse. And also we're talking about the fact that rains are still in the area, causing more flooding across that part of Japan, that is across the island. But also that also adds into the fact that islands like Puerto Rico also over the weekend did get more of rain incidences. There was a hurricane that did make landfall across Puerto Rico yesterday. That is Hurricane Fiona. Now, it did bring with it mostly strong winds and rains. Also, that was in the forecast, so meaning that evacuations were done in time. But then again, it does destroy property. It does. There are people that even when you make forecasts, they do not move away from harm's way, so still they will be caught caught up with most of these events that are resulting from most of these hurricanes as we speak. Now, it's not just across the Puerto Rico parts of the island that did get effects of Hurricane Fiona. We also did see more areas across the U.S. getting most of these effects, and obviously bringing with it strong weather. And what we do know is that more than 1,000 whole households have also been cut off in terms of power, resulting into the effect of this hurricane. Now, that is also another word for tropical storm, meaning that so far they have active 2 tropical storms happening across the world. You have Typhoon Namdol that is over Japan. You also have Hurricane Fiona across that made landfall in Puerto Rico. All those are just co-current strong extreme weather events that are happening, especially right now that we're talking about more intensity in extreme weather events across the world. Now, we also did see a more natural event coming through. That is an earthquake that did hit Taiwan at a magnitude of 5.6. And obviously, also this is not something that can be forecasted, but at least we know that some of these areas where earthquakes hit, it has actually been there for quite some time. It means that yes, these are hotspots for earthquakes, but it's never like an event that you actually prepare for. So what we do know is that an earthquake struck Taiwan that is just a few hours ago, and of course we are yet to determine the extent of what that has done. Especially looking at, we already have buildings down. What is being reported right now is that rescue operations are getting into place to ascertain the damage, also the number of people that could have been trapped in those buildings, and of course much of what is to be expected. At a magnitude of 5.6, this is quite a very strong earthquake that is bound to bring a lot of damage. But this just happened a few hours ago, and we're yet to know what is the aftermath of this earthquake right there. We also want to come back home here and take a look at what is happening across the country. We'll be tapping in from a satellite over Uganda that is indicating some of the rainy systems that we have this morning. Now, it looks like it was quite a huge one across Lake Victoria Basin, talking about those rains that we had earlier this morning and still dealing with even as we speak. Now, that is the system right there being shown in the orange, yellow and blue colors right there, showing places like Kampala, where we did start off with those rains, Wakiso as well, Entebbe. You look at Kalangala Island. Now, that system did continue towards parts of Central. That takes in areas of, you look at Ruwero, you look at Nakasongola as well. That is to be expected to also continue. Mubende as well, we were dealing with those rains earlier this morning. Now, that is also connected to a similar system across Hoima, Fort Porter, dealing with those rains right as we speak, even right now. Now, it looks like that system is mostly headed westwards, so it could be bringing more rains towards southwestern Uganda. Masaka as well did start off with most of those rains. Still, we have those rains over there as we speak, and looks like that system is going to stay around for quite some time this morning. It is headed for mostly southwestern Uganda. Mbarara, you can expect to have those rains come your way, and also we're looking at the extreme part of Kabale Islands. We could be dealing with those rains later in the day, but for now we're looking at that system mostly across Central, and of course taking in the midwestern part of the country. Now, that was also extending towards northwestern. When you look at areas of Arua, also dealing with most of those rains. You look at Gulu as well, having a little bit of light rains. Those are expected to clear for much more of intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions that will be dominating your morning. But for now, you have those cloudy conditions and rains coming through. It seems like they will be clearing later. Quite a sunny morning though across the Karamoja region. Also for eastern Uganda, you look at Amoria, Soroti having a lot of that sun this morning. Moroto as well starting off with quite a bit of sun. Mbale starting off with sunny morning as well. That is extending all the way up to areas of Butaleja, but we do expect some rains to develop over there as we see those clouds that are starting to develop in that area. We'll go ahead and take a look at the forecast for this morning. And of course, that is where we'll also be looking at some of the numbers that we have in terms of temperatures. We're looking at quite a cool morning across most areas within the country, starting off with the eastern part of Central, where we have Ruwero, Woblenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke. We already have those rains over the area. That is expected to continue throughout your morning, starting off with a chilly 25. Now you look at the western side of Lake Victoria, also having rains as we speak. That is expected to continue throughout the morning, and quite some cold weather as well at 24 degrees centigrade. We do expect that system to continue into the afternoon, so most likely you will be dealing with those rains for the entire day. Now across southwestern Uganda, Mbarara, we already have just clouds starting to develop, but do expect those rains to come your way anytime from now. That will be throughout the morning, and of course also expecting that system to cross over into the afternoon. Now across Mount Elgon Highlands, we have started off with mostly a sunny morning. Looks like we'll be having intervals of cloudy conditions, but also quite some chilly weather at 25 degrees. Now you look at the eastern side of Lake Victoria. That is where we have Tororo, Busia. We do have Iganga and Jinja. We do expect those rains to come through this morning, and temperatures are quite cool, also at 25 degrees Celsius. Eastern Uganda starting off with a mix of clouds and sunshine. Also quite a warm morning for you. That is starting off at 27 degrees centigrade. We look at the central part of northern Uganda. That is also expected to be dominated with a mix of clouds and sunshine for this morning. Quite a warm morning for you as well. Looks like it will be at 27 degrees centigrade, but we do expect some rains to come through. That will be later in the evening. Now the central part of Lake Victoria, where we have Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso, we still expect those rains to continue for your morning. That will be at also a cool 24 degrees centigrade. Well, looks like it's quite some chilly weather. We still have those rains in the forecast for you, so if you're leaving home, make sure to have that warm jacket with you. And also for areas that are expected to continue with these rains, you might also want to make sure that you have that umbrella if you're going to be moving around, just to be weather ready and make sure that this does not inconvenience much of your day. Well, that is it in terms of weather. I will be having Robert come in later for Good Morning Uganda agenda. Later than that, we'll also be having sports, and Ruben will be here to take you through that. But for now, I want to wish you a wonderful morning. My name is Mollen, Kenyena.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello? Hello? This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasozi, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey, you don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions, and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone, as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number, and you send it to her chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera, refrain from unnecessary engagements with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard. That's super easy.
Forget last season. Forget the oohs and the ahs. Forget every moment that stole the show, because the real show is here on GoTV. It's the new season. It's action-packed, and it's going to be non-stop football. With over 1,000 games from more than 7 leagues and cup competitions plus a World Cup. Make sure you get the best seat in the house this new football season. Get a GoCoder with 1 month of GoTV value for only 25,000 Uganda shillings and enjoy non-stop football. GoTV Uganda. Love it.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Stars can be seen shining brightly in the night sky. Does this mean that a star might hit you?
You're not going to believe who I met last night.
Pele.
I wish, but no. All the members of Seven Dust.
Isn't that your favorite band? Wow, you must have been starstruck.
Starstruck? Me? Okay, well, maybe at first. But they really are just ordinary people, like you and me.
We're not ordinary. We're extraordinary.
In front of a famous person you really, really like. And that's English in a minute.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here, in the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's in the distinct aroma of earth, in the magna waken our senses, and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios, this is Good Morning Uganda.
A lovely morning to you, and thank you so much for being part of Good Morning Uganda on this very cold Monday. I must say, in case you're leaving home, don't forget to keep yourself warm or carry something that will keep you warm. And in case you have infants, much as some are going to school, there are those that remain home. Ensure that they are well protected, well covered, because sometimes such cold weather brings in a lot of colds, and we never know. COVID is not 100% gone out of Uganda. So we must still remember that our health is our priority. I'm Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono, in case you've just joined. But remember, this show kicks off at 6:30 till the hour of 9 with an extension of Good Morning Uganda Extra. Now, this morning, I'm very excited because I have an old friend, but also a person who has been in the media for quite some time and now happens to be at one of the institutions where Ugandans demand a lot of perfection and excellency because it is the capital city of Uganda. I have the Deputy Director, Public and Corporate Affairs, Kampala Capital City Authority, Simon Kasiati. Simon, you're most welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Kirabo. Happy to see you after a long time in person, but although I always watch and follow your programming. To your viewers, it's always a pleasure having an opportunity to converse with them, not to tell them, but to have a conversation with them on matters that really touch their hearts. Like you said, when you are working at Kampala Capital City Authority, where you superintend over the capital city of the country that commands over close to 80% of the country's GDP, perfection is the least people expect out of you.
Now, Simon, when you talk about the number of issues that I want our viewers to know what you're going to be discussing today, of course, we will begin with the rains, where we've seen about 2 lives that have been lost within Kampala. We shall also look at the issue of this enforcement. We had about 470 million spent on purchasing body cameras. Then we cannot live without talking about the border issue. So those are 3 areas we are going to be discussing today, but also don't forget that you can send us any question on our WhatsApp number. It will be coming on the screen, and of course even the traditional SMS on that number. WhatsApp, I'll read out the messages, and also you can use the SMS for those that don't have smartphones or in case of absence of data that is dealt with. Just send us, the number is going to be popping up on your screen and I'll be reading them out. Now, Simon, to begin with,
yes,
floods have become the order of the day in Kampala. Every time it rains, we talk about floods. One said we don't have floods, we have temporary stagnation. But what is happening is these floods end up taking lives. We saw the border man at IIU stage. There's a young man also was leaving from work with a father and also was swept with water. And the biggest question has always been, when and how can we find an everlasting solution to these floods? We were told, and we are told that, you know, with the coming in of Kampala Capital City Authority, your budget allocation is far much better than what Kampala City Council had. We are told better technical people, better qualified people. Everything seems rosy and available to you. But practically, people are wondering what you're doing on ground to ensure that Kampala is worth the status of a capital city, even when it rains.
Mr. Kirabo, first, I wish to send out our commiserations to the families of those that lost their loved ones as a result of what you just talked about, the floods. One life is one too many, and for us as KCCA, when we lose such a life in such a manner, we take it to heart. But let me put it to you this way. First, let's look at the causing of the floods. Yes, they're caused by rain. KCCA praise for rain because, as you know, rain is a blessing. But what happens before the rain? We've got a drainage system in this city that requires to be revamped. And in 2016, KCCA put together a robust Kampala Capital City drainage master plan. In that master plan, they were looking at 9 major drainage catchment areas, which include and not limited to, our famous Rubiji and other catchment areas, the Chinawataka Swamp and the like. That if we work on these 9 areas, they would substantially drain flood water, or should we say runoff water, and sieve it through and deposit it gladly in Lake Victoria. But this is what has been happening over the years. You did talk about budget. Without a doubt, we have quite some budget, more than KCC. But that budget is insufficient for us to be able to pull off that master plan's effectiveness up to now. As I speak of the 9 major drainage outputs, we've only managed successfully complete Rubiji, and now we are on the second one. But what constrains us is some budget, but that is work in progress. However, we have another challenge. The challenge is you and I, the residents of the city and those who come to the city to work. What are we doing? We litter disproportionately our plastic wastes and the like, wherever someone just throwing out. We throw away garbage. All the things end up clogging what is the available drainage channels, so that when it rains, rather than the water flowing through the available culverts and the like, they are clogged up. If you look at those areas, clogged up with garbage, KCCA doesn't bring garbage and throws it on the road. We do. So can charity begin at individual level? And you make a personal vow as an individual, Mukasa, Kirabo, Kasiat, and say, I will not be involved in littering. You will have made a huge contribution in the unblocking of waterways. The other second part is, we have attacked our natural filters for this water. I want to take you to Gaba, Bunga, Soya, that area. Last week it was a mayhem. I want to believe this morning people are driving through floods. If you look at that swamp, it has been degraded by human activity. People have settled in there, they have backfilled with soils, and these are folks who know better, who do these things illegally. The best KCCA can do under these circumstances, one, is to do our regular cleaning and desilting of waterways, but that's not good enough to avoid floods. The other part is to carry out enforcement and try to demolish structures that are illegally in wetlands, stopping water flow. But you know what happens? That you arrive at the scene for an enforcement and find certain forces that may make your life a little bit very difficult. So our appeal is to say, let us not leave this challenge to KCCA alone. Can we start with individual responsibility? When you see yourself going to build in a wetland, or you're waking up your workers with sino trucks at 3 a.m. to go and pour maram in the Chinawataka Swamp, what do you think is going to happen 2 years from that time? That's what you see. So as I conclude on that, without appearing to point fingers and make a lot of blame, I want to also pass an advisory to the citizens of the city. These lives that have been lost could have perhaps prevented what happened to them. When it rains and the place is flooded, wait out the flood. There is no emergency you're going to sort out by wading into stagnated water where you do not know what's happened. Because some of these people, you don't know the strength of the current of the water. That's why they end up being swept. Now some good news, Mr. Kirabo. I don't want it to appear like it's all doom and gloom.
But before we go to the good news, Simon.
Why do you hate good news, Mr.
Before we go to the good news, first, I want to look at some of the issues that you've mentioned, which are very true. But also, I want to look at the side of the authority. One is garbage. When you move on the streets of Kampala, I know you've traveled a number of cities. At least you have trash cans. You have where you can deposit something, because you find that the whites, few of them even have time to sit and eat Many of them
they're eating on the go.
They're eating on the go, but they have where they can drop.
Absolutely.
Drop. Kampala, I moved from UBC. Maybe I'm going to City Square, now Constitutional Square. I can hardly find where to dump. That is on garbage. Your responsibility.
That's not because the garbage bins have not been put on the streets, and you've seen them from. So we have had some partners like Prime Media who had these wonderful garbage bins that were, and were clearly demarcating. This is for plastic. This is for biodegradable. This is for the other. What has happened to them? Either we vandalize them as citizens of this city, we store them to go and take them for scrap, the same way we do to manhole covers. You walk from UBC to Nkuruma Road, you have to walk looking on the road, otherwise you may end up in a manhole, not because those manholes did not have covers. They had covers, but who takes them? It's certainly not KCCA, it is you and I. So when we start stealing from our own city, when we start vandalizing our own infrastructure, when we hate ourselves to the extent that we find a dustbin and steal it, to go and sell it as scrap because it's made of metal, and tomorrow your child falls in a ditch, then we start to lose the moral authority to demand for better from a city. But that's not to say we are resigned at KCCA. You steal one, we try and replace with another. But let's not forget that the money to purchase the replacements comes from the consolidated fund. Now, do you want to pay your taxes, Mr. Kirabo, so that they keep replenishing a manhole cover being stolen by Kasiati? Citizen alert. When you see that, let us know. We are coming to that stage of let us police the city ourselves, because what Kirabo does spoiling the city affects me. What I do spoiling the city affects Kirabo, and the sad bit is that even affects our children.
Well, explain, but I also believe you can find a way of how you can have maybe had to remove or something like that. But also I go to these other communities. You know, Kampala has 5 divisions.
True.
Central may be fairly wealthy, but when you go to the likes of Machindi, you go to Kawempe, those two, you find that previously the responsibility of getting garbage, I remember some time back, it was KCCA. You had these trucks that would move Kasasiro. People would keep garbage and bring free of charge. You went into contractors, or tendering, if I may say that. Now with this tendering, you find that these people exploit and make it almost hard for an average man to be able to pay for this garbage. For example, Simon, if a person is staying in a house, because you must be practical, this is what some of the drillers in Kampala and these 5 divisions go through. A man is renting a house maybe of 100 or 150. And if he's to calculate, he's spending about 30,000 on garbage. These contractors will come, let's look, Goina Kutia, you have a full sack, give us this. They're not regulated, they're not supervised. What they agreed on paper with you is not what they are doing. Then you also used to purchase certain areas, and people would take their garbage there. So KCA would come and collect this garbage. Most of these sites have gone to, now are no longer in existence. So the poor man cannot afford to give away the rubbish. The poor man is not sure of any place where they can put the rubbish. Now, to make matters worse, these tenderers that get contract, even the cheap alternative of these people who would move with wheelbarrows, bicycles, if they know that this is a particular person doing this for this community, at least to take this garbage to somewhere, they ensure that person is arrested because it's defeating their purpose of collecting rubbish. Don't you think you handing Ugandans or garbage collection to be commercial by giving to tenderers is one of the issues that is causing this problem?
Let's start from the appreciation that even these tenderers are Ugandans like you and I. Nabugabo Abdil is not owned by a Congolese or a South Sudanese or an American guy. He's a Ugandan entrepreneur who is creating employment and opportunities for fellow Ugandans. So put that on the side. There may be some challenges with the way they are supervised, like you rightly said, that some of them are extorting and they are unreasonable in the way they do their work. That is an administrative issue that I think as KCCA we are awake to, and we strive every single day. That's the reason we wake up every morning to come and work, because the reason we work is we have to sort out all those issues that keep coming up. Kirabo, we are aware of those challenges and some work is being done in there, but it can also be done more effectively if you give us this information. The challenge is many Kampalans think that Kampala Capital City Authority is manned and operated by angels who have got a instinctive sense that Simon is going to close his eyes and see a man extorting money from Kamocha to get garbage put onto a truck. But also importantly, I want you to know that there are more than now available trucks from not just the suppliers, the tenderers as you mentioned them, but also from KCCA project, like the protection of Lake Victoria environment. I'm sure you've seen those huge trucks aptly branded. So we are every day struggling with the issue of garbage collection. What we will say that no matter the circumstances, don't be tempted, Mr. Kirabo, or you who's watching me, to pick your garbage and throw it in a mwara or in a drainage, because when you put it there, it's going to cause a problem with the flooding. Let us struggle with what there is. It will get better. When you see a KCCA official, report that to them. Garbage collection remains a huge challenge. We even have a challenge with where we dump the garbage at the dump in Chitezi. That's why KCCA proactively and foresightedly bought a huge chunk of land somewhere in Dundu. Dundu is on the Karaji Road, Karaji Kayunga Road. Now, we hope that one of these days we'll also move our dump site over there. But let's also agree that the city is growing. Every day there's a new person bringing into life the city. That means more garbage, the desire for more services. All that will be worked on.
Still, before you go to the good news, I know you're eager to give us the good news. You talked about these constructions. Often at time, I've had a quarrel and attacked your officials. When I see them hunt the poor and the rich seem to be constructing. If a person is constructing a simple 1-room, 2-room shop along, KCCA officials from physical planning and all that, they'll confiscate the wheelbarrows, they will arrest the people. Then I ask these very people that if you are able to see this young entrepreneur trying to construct, then how do you tell us, because Simon, buildings have collapsed, and I'm tempted to use the word shamefully. I see KCCA officials coming and saying this building was illegally constructed up to floor 5. Yet they have been able to see a 1-room being constructed and they move in action, which I believe which is more visible to see. That's why I said I'm tempted to use the word shamefully going on. And it beats public reasoning and understanding. That how did you fail to stop a building like the one that collapsed in Chiwembe, which along the road everyone is seeing, but you're able, even if someone is just at the foundation, come and they keep on impound wheelbarrow all the people, and I've always attacked them and saying, but don't you think either it's, I don't know, the officials here, you can better explain to us, because it's one of the reasons you're saying that people, these constructions and all that, how do they manage?
I would ask you the same question, but also put it this way. Who owns these big sites that you see mushrooming every other day, that sometimes our enforcement teams find themselves constrained to enforce? These are people who have the ability to create a certain layer or shield of security around them that makes it very difficult for our enforcement to do so. They are so tricky sometimes that they will construct in the dead of the night. So they are like a chiswa. One in the night you go to sleep and there's nothing on the floor. You wake up in the morning and an ant has been constructed. So then you come down, you say stop. You issue them with stop orders and say you're not going to proceed. They comply. During the day you see nobody on site. Come back the next morning, it has gone up. Then we come down and enforce, and then go backwards. So it's an issue of the lack of compliance from our citizens, and that's why it came down to, as an individual, what is so difficult if you can afford to build a Kenyena financially? What is so difficult for you to seek the requisite permits, the requisite permissions from the authority that runs this city? Of course, some of them are watching this program and they're saying, but we bring up building plans to KCCA, they lie on your table for 6 months, I've taken a loan from the bank is beginning to count on their interest, you are not signing to give me a go-ahead, you are infringing me, so what I do, I'll find my own ways of building so that I'm able to meet my financial obligations. We have recognized that there has been a challenge in that area, that some of these building plans come and sit on our desks and gather dust for many reasons. And that's why KCC is now moving into the smart city operation. That some of these, You don't have to come with physical papers and like you're able to sit on the comfort of your chair, pick up your phone, pick up your tablet, and apply for some of these permits online and get them. The same way a small business entrepreneur in Chenawataka, for example, can get their trading license without having to line up anywhere. You can pay by Visa, you can pay by mobile money, follow through the processes on your phone, and get your trading licenses in there. Are we so high-handed on the small Muntu as you want to call them? We are not really high-handed. We are enforcing what should be trade order, what should be proper order in this city. The thing, like I said, it's the disproportionality of saying, how come you let the Kenyena go up, but this one you saw him? This person who builds a little small one-roomed house doesn't even have the capacity to build at night because they need light. So they would rather build during the day. When we are passing by, we try and enforce. So it's a challenge having to enforce on both ends. And it's not to say that KCCA really is out to target the low income and make their lives more difficult. Far from it. If anything, we'd be much more interested in going for the big because those ones set the example.
Do we have a plan as KCCA? Do you have a plan for development of this city? If so, do we need all these buildings that you're approving? Because I know of cities, I don't want to mention our neighbor, but you know the neighbor I'm talking about, they will tell you, yes, you have your money, you want to construct an arcade, but either go outside the city. But it seems, cases, I look at these mushrooming arcades every day, mushrooming fuel stations. It seems we do not have a plan for this city. It is rather the business community determining on what is where, when, and how.
Far from it, Mr. Kirabo. In fact, what we have in plenty are plans. You can fault us on the implementation of those plans, but what we have are plans. Just like you, I thought KCCA was domiciled at City Hall, H-O-L-E, where things just get dumped in there, people just get dumped in there. It's a graveyard, no ideas, nothing. Until I got in there and I realized you not only have incompetent, switched-on people, you not only have incredibly well thought out plans, like I just gave you an example of the Kampala Capital City Drainage Master Plan of 2016. If you read that document, it's something out of this world. If you read the Lord Mayor State of the City Address 2022, he issued it in May, you'll be surprised how much is in the pipeline, how much has been done. But we come down to constraints of implementation. But also we have constraints of compliance. You'll tell someone, do not do this. This is not allowed in the law. And they go ahead and do it. But also, we also don't work in isolation. Someone will come to you and say, no, I have clearance from another government agency that allows me to build in this wetland. Are we the government agency that is charged with the environmental protection?
Definitely not.
Thank you. But if you, Kirabo, has clearance from that agency, and your building plans look proper on the paper, on the basis of your license, how can we stop you? So there needs to be a multifaceted approach to some of these issues so that we don't work as silos as government agencies, but we sit and agree that there are certain bare minimums below which we cannot fall as a country.
Let me have the good news before we move into something else of public concern regarding KCCA.
You recognize that there's quite a lot of construction that's going on in terms of physical infrastructure. If you look at the southern part of the city, Clock Tower area, down to Mukwano and all that, there's huge construction going in there, which is the good news that is yet to come. That flyover project that will even come down here to close to your offices here at UBC. What does that mean, therefore? It means that there's going to be some bit of disruption of not just motorization, but also the flow of water. Hence, you now begin to see why some of these floods are the way they are. You also know that we've done quite some bit in roads like Acacia, John Babeha, the Ntinda Stretcher Road, the other road from Reza down to Kabusu. Now, beyond that, there is a new project coming up where we're going to see proper reconstruction of some major city roads in here. 31 roundabouts are going to be done away with and robotized with traffic lights. Can you imagine? Just close your eyes and just see 31 roundabouts around the city. So that tells you the one at Airtel House, for example, Wampe, all the way up to Port Bell. That road is going to be redone, not just refurbished, but redone. So by the end of this year, you'll see quite a lot of activity moving in the area of road construction. What does that mean? It means you're going to be a bit disrupted. Traffic is going to be on chokehold. Flow of water may be disrupted. But all these huge infrastructure projects will come with a huge consideration for proper drainage and flow of water. That's where now I make my appeal We will put lights. We will put street lighting, as we have been doing at the moment. Don't steal our street lights. They are your street lights. They are not for KCCA. They are for the city. We've just installed 210 street lights along Ginger Road, and others are going to come in the areas of, Wandegi and the like. Solar lit. But every day we keep awake, worried of vandals coming to steal our lithium batteries. Now, when we fix that kind of infrastructure and you steal it, you don't love yourself. You are talking about beautiful cities. You've been talking about neighbors who are building beautiful cities. Are the citizens like you and I? When we come in to try and enforce and make you like those citizens to comply, then you start saying, KCCA, nowadays the word is, mutima KCCA. You don't like to be policed. You do not want to be enforced onto. You want to live like you're a law unto yourselves, and yet you demand good things from KCCA. There's only so much KCCA can do.
But also, Kasiati, comrade, there's also some argument. I was looking at that theft of these things also. An ordinary thief may find it hard, unless he's an insider.
Where an ordinary thief is who?
Unless he's an insider. I just imagine how you come with this crest and then you climb up, pick these. We are told, but this is subject to investigation. I know you're good at investigative journalism. For some time we were into this. We need to investigate that further. So do some in-house checkup regarding theft of some of these things.
These things now, and then come back for them later.
No one told me, Robert, just how do you expect an ordinary Ugandan, the thieves we know that they tell you scrap dealers, to come? That lithium battery is a bit high.
Of course.
High. Are they going to climb with that? Told me, you wait one time, be very sensible. Ask these cameras. They'll show you some officials, I don't know which organization, that come, then as if they are repairing, they go with what they fixed. But anyway, that is subject to investigation.
That's interesting. Yeah, but if you can get us that information, Mr. Kirabo, or your viewers, and they know that for sure that a KCCA official is involved in all these peccadillos and misdemeanors, believe you me, what we have in store is enough administrative sanctioning to bring such people to book, and send an example to the others who are like them, that you will not go out with it for a long time.
Well, I just want to remind our viewers, that is the number on your screen. You can send us a WhatsApp message, or you can send us an SMS. Simon Kasiate is here and he will be responding to that. Now let's move to another area, that is the enforcement, where a lot has been raised, that your men are harsh, they're inhuman in the way they conduct these operations, they steal people's things, we don't know where they end up. They have become demigods in their way. True. They are corrupt. One allows them, actually I've ever tested this, where one person uses some place and he has to give a kickback to someone, then he pays this van, then the other comes. All these, now we are told that you resorted to
you
having...
You witnessed all that?
Yes.
And did tell us. You're a very good friend of the authority. You are friends with the minister, you're friends with the executive director. Now you know we've been friends for a very long time. Mr. Kirabo, you an important person if you don't report some of the things. Katinzo muntu wa wansi ataina gwe manyi wentu kirira how
nagezako nayo kufuna breakthrough nebirema, but good you're there now. So Simon, you've resorted to body cameras and at a cost.
Body-worn cameras.
Body-worn cameras, and at a cost of, if I'm not mistaken, about 470 million has gone to procurement of about 60 of these. Well, our cravings really have value for money. All these clips that have been circulating of manhandling, even before you have these cameras, what action has been taken? So these are some of the questions that run in the minds of city dwellers, people that use this city. But we've had with this social media, day in, day out, clips, but no action. Now, how is this going to, how are we going to have value for money? Is it going to deliver results?
We take great exception to the fact that our law enforcement team is accused time and again for inhuman behavior, corruption, and all sorts of bad things. We receive these reports on a daily. Then we engage them. Most recently, the ED addressed them in a town hall meeting at KCCA. On the backdrop of a long process of appraisal from their supervisors. First, guess what? On paper, from appraisal, incredible team of people. They perform beyond their expectation. In reality, we keep getting all these allegations. And we ask them, exactly what's the problem? Why don't you be helped? Why don't you have a human face as you conduct your business? But you see, it is he said, she said. It is you accusing them. It is them denying. So it's their word against yours, your word against theirs. In that case, we said no. Even though you see those social media clips you've been talking about, many a times when you analyze them fully, the clips are made in such a way that they propagate the agenda of the one who is sharing them. They show you the KCCA manhandling, but they don't show you the point of provocation. They don't indicate what words or what actions were done unto KCCA enforcement officers. We've had our KCCA enforcement officers beaten, vulgarized, and abused as they carry out their duties. They are high-handed without a doubt sometimes because of the attack they receive. Like Newton says in his third law of motion, every action creates an equal but opposite reaction. These gentlemen and ladies don't wake up from their homes every morning to come and say, let me go and beat every living thing in Kampala. They come to create trade order. They have a mandate. If you're not supposed to be in this location, please move. Then we try to tell you, move these items of yours to the other side, and you show resistance because you're seeing a camera somewhere. Coffee. Now we're going to procure body-worn cameras, complete with an audio element, and put it on every law enforcement officer, and have a command center at our city hall, and be able to monitor and see every operation as it takes place, where we are looking at a we call it a multiplex screen, and where you think there is an interest, you zoom in and try to watch and listen into the engagements. When an enforcement officer knows that he's being monitored by audio and visual, perhaps they will behave better than they would. When you, as a city resident, knows that this enforcement officer coming to enforce something with me has a monitoring gadget, you'll also think twice on what you're going to say unto them. Now, this is going to help us in empirical evidence gathering. You see, you Kirabo, you see people doing wrong things, you don't tell us. But the cameras will be telling us in real time. Where there is a complaint, we'll be able to go back to the old footage, play it back, and try to ensure that we carry out a thorough investigation. That is part of creating trade order. But also importantly, it's under the bigger ambit of the smart city phenomena that our ED champions and is a vanguard of. She believes that her legacy, and I agree with her 100%, should be about making this a smart city, not just in outlook, but a city where you and I feel happy to live, feel happy to work, feel happy to receive services from. So let's have body-worn cameras on law enforcement officers. Let them go out in the field. Let us monitor their activities. There may be some challenges with regard to how that is going to be effective, but we are fixing that. We've taken them through training. We are continuing to train them. We are doing what we call simulation drives to ensure that when we roll them out, eventually, every nut and bolt has been fixed in its right place. And we'll come back here, Mr. Kirabo. And
I've also heard of a proposal for new uniform. Why do you want to waste taxpayers' money?
We're not wasting taxpayers' money.
What has a uniform got to do with character, behavior, and professionalism?
I watched UBC as a young child growing up when my father worked here. I know what your set looked like. I also know that you used to open at 6 p.m. with color bars and close at midnight to the national anthem. How come you are now open at this time? Because people are coming in this morning, are picking salary in the morning from the taxpayers' money. But what is your overriding achievement? Is to ensure that you deliver quality information to the citizens of Uganda 24 hours away from saying UBC will be watched between 6 and midnight. Same applies to KCCA and other government agencies, but specifically for KCCA, we are saying, look, for us to be smart and give you confidence that we know what we're doing, let us change. Maybe there's something about our uniform that's making people think wildly. Mr. Kirabo, the reason you come so smart, I've known you for many years, you're extremely smart, is because you believe that you are addressed the way you are dressed. Mr. Kirabo, if I had walked in here with a casual polo t-shirt and some tattered jeans and a pair of sneakers, this conversation will be having another dimension. The way you look at me would be different. So let us dress our enforcement officers in a manner that gives them confidence, that makes them feel smart, that makes them realize that they are wearing a uniform with a Ugandan badge, a KCCA logo, for which they cannot abuse. They need to be part of a bigger family and feel proud about it. So we're not wasting taxpayers' money.
Very interesting, Kasiati here. Simon. Well, I also want to look at some of the questions before I move to the border question. To the border. I have quite a number, but please do me a favor. If you're doing anything, send us your name. A number of messages, but I find that if we do not have your name, it becomes a problem. Please keep them coming. Before I go to the border, I think let me just give you a few. We have one here. Good morning, Uganda. I'm Mugisha Rogers in Mukono. Please, KCCA, check the big channel at Mukwano roundabout road, it has collapsed.
It hasn't collapsed. It is being eaten away, and we are aware of that. It is part of our ongoing rehabilitation works. But also around that area, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Street industrial area is going to see a major overhaul in terms of how that road network is done. But remember also that area he's talking about is going to be part of the greater flyover project. So that Najibo Channel area and the Kitkum House works that are yet to commence will sort out that issue in a more permanent manner. But as of now, what we do, we remove the clogged up garbage, we try to fix a few loose ends here and there and keep it going.
Then also I have another one. Why do KCCA prisons as who are just site porters than the owners of these sites in terms of construction?
I know it's such a bad thing, but you see, you come to a site and say Kirabo, 90 Zimbe yani, and the guy there feigns ignorance, cannot give you the number of the owner of the building. He says for him he is just a casual. So there is a lot of protectionism. So what we do, as a way of compelling the owner of the site to come, we hold on to what we find there. And if he's a responsible employer, he will come to rescue you. When he comes to rescue you, because your liability was that you were found on site doing something illegal, so we will excuse you and take on the person that gave you the command. It's just, you know, a cascading of activities.
Well, another one. Why does KCCA, they use some LCs to spy anyone building or innovating or without trade license. They tell you to pay them some chintu chidogo. How much is a trading license for small barber shop deep in Bunga, Gaba? The enforcement works with Chifesi guys.
Oh, what an allegation. I wish that I could get more detail from that gentleman on those LCs that are conniving with KCCA officials. What's for sure is that KCCA obviously works with local leadership. We work with the local leaders. That's why at KCCA you have the Lord Mayor, you have got a council elected by the people at LC5 level. We have got our 5 divisions which have councils at LC3. Then we also know that we also have LC2, we have LC1 which also has a council. So as KCCA we are a government that transcends down to the lowest unit, which is a village. Do we use them to get information? But of course we ought to. As part of our structure, we even have RCCs as part of the structure. We have a whole ministry for Kampala Metropolitan Affairs. So it's not an out of the ordinary that KCCA is synergizing with local leaders. Imagine if we were not. The accusation would be like, you override our LCs, you do not give them the requisite attention they deserve, yet they are our elected leaders. So we deal with the elected leadership.
Finally, Simon, a quick one.
How much is the trading license? I would invite this gentleman to check out on our website if they are able to access the internet, or go to their nearest division headquarters. In the case of Bunga, it is Machindi. Let him visit physically and speak to our officers there. They will be able to explain to them not just how much it costs, but how they can actually get a trading license without stepping into a bank or at KCCA offices.
And I must commend you on that. You've greatly improved. I got mine in just an hour. I had one.
What business are you involved in, Mr. Chirap?
I was spy. Now, there's also one coming in. Good morning. Ask Simon, these roads like Salama Road that even are used by patients of Chirudu, no, something should be done.
Simba wakatiao. When we are done with Salama Road, which we are beginning at the end of this year, we already have financing coming from our good partners, the African Development Bank. You will never recognize what Salama Road looks like. One of these days we're going to be commissioning these other roads that I talked about, Lukuri Road, and we know that then Salama will now be commissioning it. So we'll be commissioning the completed road and groundbreaking for the construction of Salama. Salama is part of the bigger project I talked about. We're going to remove 31 roundabouts, rebuild the new roads, talk about the industry area and the other places. So Salama Road, there's a grand plan for it. Yes, for sure, but you will love what we'll have done with it.
Well, we can't live without an update of the border registration. Is it done? Has it been a success or a failure like the previous have?
I don't know about previous ones that were conducted by other people, but the one of KCCA has been exceptionally successful to the extent that we received close to 50,000 registrations, and the registration concluded on Friday. Now, the thought process that is going through is analyzing this information that we gathered from the riders and the owners and feeding into our master plan in terms of planning for now the numbers that we have, finding out, getting gazetted stages for them, getting identification material for them to know that Kirabo is operating here. This is identification number. This is how we should look like. Then, of course, we're also going to assist working with other government agencies, especially the ones who issue riding permits, Ministry of Works, to support those who registered, yes, but do not have the requisite paperwork like riding licenses and the like, because we are not discriminating. We are saying, fine, it's nice and necessary to have a riding license, but if you don't have it, we understand the challenges. You come, we'll try and see how we support you. So as of now, I have been told, and it has come to our notice as KCCA, that some people have turned themselves into a law enforcement officer and they are blocking riders from accessing the city on the premise that they were not registered. That is not a KCCA operation. We registered and stopped on Friday. It's business as usual. Let the borders riders, they have been doing so. As we do the demarcation stages, the planning and everything. When we are ready now to effect the plans we have for those who registered, we'll have issued them with identification tags, we'll have already showed them where their stages are, we'll have told them how to proceed. Then we'll say, now, those who did not register, step aside because you don't have identification, and only those...
A person who buys a border today and is a rider, registration is closed, what's the way forward?
They will have to wait until we go through another wave. But let us first plan for those who are there now. When the country is doing a census, Mr. Kirabo, on the day of the census, there are women in labor wards. The day after the census, some new citizens are born. But the census results will tell you Uganda has 47 million people. But between the time they finish computing the numbers and the time they announce the results, there will be maybe 47 point something. What does the government do? The government plans for those that they have on their log and then says, okay, fine, let's give some kind of allowance to accommodate those that are coming in, because the world, the city is an evolving place. The demographics keep changing. So we are planning in such a way that we'll be able to accommodate and plan for those who we have on our log, and then allow for mechanisms to start now bringing in the new entrants as they come in an organized and systematic manner. You know, now you wake up one morning, you get some 4 million machines, go to Yamaha Center, buy a motorbike and start operating, give yourself a step.
Well, in the interest of time, Kasijati, in just time, your parting shot.
One is the usual, to thank you, at least for considering KCCA important, and you should all the time, to invite us here all the time to try and pass this information, but also importantly to hear from you. These questions that are coming in from your viewers are very insightful where we are. We don't want to close our eyes and work in a bubble as if we know everything around us. No. So I appeal to the citizens of this city to say, let's love our city and recognize the fact that this city is as good for you as it is for me. When you see something wrong, reach out to KCCA. The doors are open and will indeed handle. Don't only come to KCCA to throw blame, to come and complain, to come and at worst tell us how you have been mistreated. You come and give us all this information so that we are able to act on it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Simon Kasijati, Deputy Director, that is Public and Corporate Affairs. We hope KCCA will have a listening here and create more avenues for people to give them information, but also react accordingly. I'll leave you with Ruben. Is ready to take you through sports updates. See you later. God bless you. Stay safe.